Hello, Planet Poke people. How are you? It's me, Diogen Z, and it's time to play Pokemon Conquest. Today we are not going to be conquistadors of the sort where we take kingdoms, but instead arm our armies with greater strength, train some of our new warriors, and see what other warriors that are roaming around. See which other ones want to join our team. Okay, there's 3 warriors here. That is a big plus. And the one I want the most, believe it or not, is the Magikarp trainer. Magikarp warrior. And this Magikarp is so frustrating. Horribly frustrating. Anyone who's played Pokemon for at least the first gen knows why I want this thing. While it looks like a goofy, useless, splashing fish, if you keep it around long enough and train it significantly well, by just being around your other warriors in the army, then it will eventually evolve into a terrifyingly powerful Gyarados. But the thing is, yeah, let's see how this works. Very nice. So if you're sitting next to my Seawaddle, you'll get a boost. I guess the most advantageous time to use that is when you're surrounded by your party, but this is a minor battle. It's not such a big deal. But you won't be able to get this Magikarp because of what that trainer, what that warrior is doing right there. He is going to stall you out. You're not going to be able to get him unless you have a Carnivine or you have a Pokemon that has a long-reaching move. And as far as I've seen so much up to this point, I don't think there is a really long-reaching Razor Leaf that you can get. I haven't seen it at all. But I've seen Vine Whips, I've seen Bug Bites, you know, I've seen Absorbs, maybe a Mega Drain, but if you really want to get a hold of this Magikarp in the under 4 turns it takes, what you'll need is a Carnivine. Oh, massive damage. Over 100. Such a powerful ally Takayoshi is. Thanks to Carnivine's floating ability, any Pokemon, no matter where they go, over lava, over poison, over just a sheer empty space, Carnivine can float over to get them, which is perfect for acquiring Magikarp. I really would love to have a Gyarados on my team, but it's difficult to train. Difficult to train because its only move is Splash. I do wonder what its warrior skill is going to be. Hopefully it's something we can use for our entire team, and it's not like, oh, just boost the defense of your, or boost the attack power. That would be extremely useless. Boost the attack power of your Magikarp. It would be good when it's a Gyarados, but right now, oh, we're just going to supercharge Splash. It's super not effective. It's weird. I think that on the water field, if you ever get into a water battle, and I am speaking in terms of the main RPG here, say you're surfing over an ocean and you fight with your Magikarp, or you're on a pond and you fight with your Magikarp, that's the only time I believe that Splash should do anything. And not much of anything. I don't want to make it like a crazy awesome move when you get into water, because it doesn't even rarely, you know, it's barely going to happen. But it's just a nice added bonus for people to find. What could happen is that you could lose, your opponent could lose their accuracy every time you use Splash. And it makes sense, because if you have ever had a brother or a sister and you went in the ocean with them, surely you've splashed water in each other's faces, and it's hard to see when you're getting a barrage of water being splashed in your face. So that definitely lowers your accuracy. I don't know, it's interesting. What do you guys think Splash should do? Over 9,000 damage? No, that'd be ridiculous. Alright, so as if we didn't have a good slew of water warriors from the remnants of Motochika's army, now we have 3 more very powerful players. And we are going to send them right on up into the Ignis Kingdom. As I said last episode, I like to keep my warriors where they will be the best. And this is good. The Ignis Kingdom, which is right on the corner of all those other peripheral kingdoms, it's fully packed. So if anyone tries to invade, they're going to have a difficult time. When you get to this point in the game, this is where you're going to start to notice kingdoms trying to take what you've already conquistadored. But that's fine, because by this point you should have plenty of warriors at your side, so long as you are defeating enemies within 4 turns. And it does get easier to defeat them in 4 turns if you didn't get too many fire types before because it was difficult with only Eevee and Jigglypuff. Now you can return to Ignis and you could use water types that you just obtained from Motochica's land. It's a very nice balance. Something that this game will consistently do, and I most likely will mention multiple times. Okay, so I'm starting to get how these are functioned. I think that you can only equip items, is that it? You can only equip things to certain Pokemon and warriors? Because I noticed that some of my Pokemon have an option to use a potion, but not all. So it's not like it goes into a collective bag, I don't believe. I think it really just goes on the warrior that comes to the shop. Or actually, no, you do have a bag, but it is all equipable. Huh. We'll have to mess around with that, and I'll see for sure. But wisdom's good. Why not? Buy another one of these. I don't know what wisdom actually does. Does it increase the link potential? Possibly. Possibly. Yeah, we're only going to need 2 very strong water types. Oh, there's not even a fire Pokemon here. It's just a Bidoof. A Bidoof. Doofy Bidoof. Alright, fine. We'll take him on. This is a massive training episode, if you didn't know. So, every member of my army will be getting some sort of training or doing something in one kingdom or another. That's what this game definitely stresses to you early on. At this point, oh, 2 Bidoofs. That's cool. At this point especially, because now that those other kingdoms are seen, they will not hesitate to take your kingdom if you waste too many turns walking around or training. So that requires you to do the most you can, digging for gold, stopping at the shops, doing whatever you need to, and training all at the same time within a minimal amount of turns. This way, you can exercise your power and show the surrounding kingdoms, you better not step on what I've already owned, because you'll be next. I think the way that we're going to do it is travel upwards, up to the left. Start out at Violite, or Violite, I don't know. I think it's Violite, I'm going to go with that. And work our way around to Pugilus. Because at this point, we would get creamed, absolutely demolished if we went with our current team of Eevee and Jigglypuff. And yes, you need to bring your warlord. You can't take over a kingdom unless you do. I know, that probably struck your mind. Well, Gen Z, why don't you just bring all your other warriors? You've got plenty. They can't go into battle without your warlord and Oichi, your co-lord. Your co-lordstress, I suppose you could say. Ah, flinch. Such cheapness. That's fine. Bidoof won't get the best of us. We've got plenty of defense. And lots of offense to bring on the demise of the doof. So, interesting facts for you people. If you didn't know that this game is based off of semi-true happenings in Japan, obviously it's not true that there was ever warlords roaming the land with Pokemon, but there certainly were lots of warlords and huge civil war going on in Japan at the time. I think it was in the 1540s that this whole situation was happening. And these warlords that we're running into, they're actually real. They're real people in history. Saw this documentary yesterday that talked about Nobunaga and why he was so feared. When the Portuguese came to Japan and they had no idea what to expect. They couldn't believe they found a whole other society of people doing things completely different from what they were. You know, they were there on a missionary mission trying to convert people to Christianity. And when they got there, they saw the Japanese. Obviously, Japanese are a lot different than Europeans in their facial expressions, in their body types, in their culture. So everything was crazy, and each observed each other very, very curiously. One of the things that the Portuguese brought along with them, though, was firearms. And Nobunaga was the first to mainline firearms in battle. So no more was the honorable samurai sword match of dying an honorable death and committing harakiri if you could not defeat your enemy, which is self-suicide. Well, obviously suicide is always on yourself, but it was an honorable death. It was seen as that. And I'm just using this guy because, even though he's not the highest power level, I don't think I'll be using Katoni much in my battles. So Nobunaga said, forget the swords, forget that. I know this powerful weapon. He's like, give me lessons. As soon as he was given a gun, he had his metalsmiths work out a copy of one so all of his warriors could carry them. And he demolished areas, absolutely destroyed, because in your mind, back in Japan, all the encounters you're thinking of are going to be fights to the death. Someone is coming out of there alive, one of them is dying, but it's going to be an honorable, intense match. And it's one-on-one hand combat with swords, so you need to master the blade, you need to know exactly how to hold your stance. There's a great book that I recommend called The Book of Five Rings. I guess it's 5 books technically, but it's not really, it's a collection. And it's made by Miyamoto Musashi, who told people the way of the samurai, the way of the warrior, and how to apply that into everything you do. So hold your battle stance, hold your combat stance in your regular day life, and a whole bunch of other things he said. I'll talk about Miyamoto Musashi probably in another episode, and you shall succeed at whatever you do. So when Nobunaga came in with these bam sticks, he demolished kingdoms. He absolutely thwarted everyone, but he was infamous and seen as a brute, seen as a heathen, because he did such barbaric fighting. There was no skill, really. I mean, yeah, you gotta hold the gun, you gotta point it, you have to have at least enough muscle power to not get shot back a bit from the recoil of the weapon, but once you master that, and it's really not long to do so, compared to a bunch of people who have close range weaponry, that's just bullshit. That's completely unfair, but he knew how to win battles. And he did not have any qualms with being the most destructive bastard that he could be. And it's funny because he hasn't changed much in Pokemon Conquest. You know, this game in Japanese, it was called Nobunaga's Ambition. And his ambition back then, as it is in this game today, was to destroy everyone. And it was all, I believe, for the honor of being the Emperor's shogun, being the strongest warrior. But I don't realize how he could think he was the strongest warrior when he was having such an unfair advantage. He had only victory in his mind, and however he could obtain that was good enough for him. Pretty barbaric, pretty crazy. That was the funniest thing I should say about the documentary I watched, was the Portuguese thought the Japanese were barbaric, and vice versa, the Japanese thought the Portuguese were barbaric. And it's just funny, when you get to a new land, you automatically label someone as a barbarian, but the only way that you would need to label them as such is if they're warlike. You know, the Portuguese, yeah, I see them as barbaric because they're going into places and being so brazen as to think, oh, we're just going to infect the world with Christianity. Who cares what the culture is here? We're just going to come in and demolish it and build up what we have in Europe already. And they also carried guns, which meant that they were willing to use force if necessary to deal with an area. And they spread that violence and really destroyed countless lives in Japan once Nobunaga got a hold of the weaponry and got the know-how to use it. He is revered as one of the most terrible characters in Japanese history. But the Japanese were, you know, it's interesting. I don't think of the Japanese as barbaric, but I think war is a barbaric behavior. And when anybody tries to commit such a thing, it could make you seem a bit truculent, of course. But I do admire the Japanese fighting style. The only thing I don't understand is the harakiri, the sacrifice after you lose a battle, going out honorably, not worming away from defeat, which that in itself is honorable, but still, why not live to fight another day? I'm not sure. You may have defeated me on this one playing field. What's Jigglypuff doing? Oh, wow, I didn't even know that dirt spot could give you some kind of item. That's pretty neat. To me, it seems that if you defeat your opponent, if you have them, you know, your sword to their neck, and you realize that the battle has been lost, and you concede defeat, I don't see what's dishonorable about that. We all have defeat, whether it's in swordplay or in our daily lives more often for us. At least here in America, you know, we have jobs that we don't get, we have grades on tests that we don't like, we have a lot of things that we fuck up on. But quite frankly, if we were to commit suicide every time because we quote-unquote dishonored ourselves, millions of Americans would be gone today. But we don't do that, and you know, it does make maybe a softer race of humans, perhaps, but who knows? I don't see it as being a benefit. I see it as letting your ego take hold of you and go crazy with yourself. Because why would you get rid of your vast potential as a warrior? You're very strong. You may have been defeated in this particular circumstance, but give me a couple months more of training, give me more discipline, as these samurai have already had for ages, and they can come back even stronger. So it just seems ridiculous to me that they need to commit suicide every time, but that's the Japanese culture. You know, I'm American, maybe I just don't get it because of that, but still I don't see the point. Then again, I don't see the point in war either, because violence begets violence, and looking back in the 1500s, it was some of the bloodiest time of Japan. There's nothing good about war. It doesn't really at all solve the goal that it was trying to complete. Whether it's liberating an area or trying to suppress someone, that's one of the biggest ideas that has to be realized, is that whenever you suppress a behavior, you should expect it to come back tenfold. It's like whenever you're a parent, in the position of a parent, and you just say no to everything. Your child is automatically going to want to go after all those taboo things. That's why, you know, it's the heavily well-known myth that Christian girls can be slutty sometimes, because it's told and beat into their brains that sex is bad, sex is sin, so you can't do it. But if you want to suppress things, fine. It's going to come back 10 times stronger and even more ugly than before. War doesn't solve anything, but education is the true key to progression. If people can learn to understand one another and not automatically sign each other off as barbarians, and instead of going into an area to try and spread your doctrine and not consider those around you as having a viable culture, then we could really make progress. Then we could really start to understand each other and not have to do so in the form of guns or swords. There's no honor, absolutely no honor. I mean, there is a certain air of the Japanese fighting style that I will always admire, the honor in battle, and the fact that you have to defeat your opponent one-on-one. You look them in the eye, you tell them where you're from, they understand the gravity of the situation. It's not just, you know, merciless killing. But the fighting of today, at least how it's done in America, is disgusting. It's done by drones. And I know people are going to yell at me, saying, well, we're saving American lives. Yeah, but you're killing innocent Middle Eastern lives that, at the end of the day, they're just humans. We're all just humans, and we need to get over this ridiculous my nation this, my territory that, ego tripping, because that's all it is. Thinking your doctrine is better than another, that's an ego trip. Thinking that you have honor that you have to defend in the form of harakiri, that's an ego trip. We're all constantly trying to strive to get better, and to end it prematurely by the way of a barrel of a gun, it's just foolish. But those are my thoughts, and I wanted to let you guys know that this is actually based on some true events that have happened in history. I literally just found out about this last night, and I wish I knew, because it turns out Hideyoshi, the previous owner of this Ignis kingdom, he was a masterful warlord. He was one of the remaining two in the strife for power. Well, I shouldn't say one of the remaining two. It was really his heir that was one of the remaining two, Hideyori. And it was an interesting relationship because the warlord that defeated Hideyori, the heir to Hideyoshi, was Ieyasu. And Ieyasu, back then when Hideyoshi was perishing, he summoned Hideyoshi summoned Ieyasu and said, look after my son, you know, until he's a man, and make sure that he stays the heir of my throne, because in the past, Hideyoshi and Ieyasu had a partnership. They had an agreement not to attack one another. But when it came to power, Ieyasu decided, well, it's time. Hideyori is grown, and now he's going to have to fight like a man. So Ieyasu gathered his army, went to one of his strongholds where he was hiding. It was a very seen as impenetrable fortress, huge. If you ever play Skyrim, I guess something comparable to that would be Whitehold. Was it Whitehold or Whiterun? I think it was Whiterun. I'm thinking of the area that has those gigantic cobblestone walls all around, and the only way to get in is through the gate, and if you have caused havoc before, the guards won't let you get in, but, you know, that's another story. So Ieyasu got there and burned down his palace once he made it to Hideyori, and there was nothing left of Hideyori. He burned in the flames. It's not certain, but pretty sure that he committed harakiri, because it was just the culture of the time, and if you're defeated, that's what happens. But pretty extreme. So Ieyasu, if we ever find him in this game, we better look out, because if he says, hey, you want to be a partner? Yeah, he might just go ahead and backstab us once we grow older in strength. I mean, I'm 20 now, so I guess technically I'm a man, but would he attack us? Well, who knows? I don't even know if there is an Ieyasu in this game. But it's pretty freaking awesome to see that they incorporated real-life events into this game. And such intense events, too. That's why I always like to get kind of the background story of what's going on in my games. Whether it's something true or something like Fallout, where I go onto the Fallout wiki and read all of the lore and find out what happened in all these vaults. What experiment was done here? Why are these super mutants walking around? I always love to get into the backstory. The more information I can get, the better of any game I play. But let me know what you guys think. Have you heard of any of this Nobunaga nonsense? It has occurred in other games, but it's not occurred in a game that I know of, like this one, where you're literally a warlord and you're sort of playing a pseudo version of Japanese history through Pokemon's eyes. It's interesting, but I have seen Nobunaga before in video games. This is a crossover. There is apparently a Nobunaga's Ambition game series, so this is a crossover of that with Pokemon, which now I'm so curious I'm gonna have to look into it. But the only other time that I've seen Nobunaga was in Sakura Wars So Long My Love, which is a Wii game, and it's an interesting one. Definitely something to check out, especially now that they're probably not going to make anything else for Wii, but I've still got my Wii, and I'm not getting rid of it. I'm not entirely convinced on Wii U yet, not so much. So far, a lot of what I've seen is TV fan kind of effects. Something for people who really enjoy watching cable, which I don't have. I don't have TV, haven't had it for over 5 years now, and I'm so happy without it. But you know, I don't understand. It's they're showcasing, oh look, you can play it away from the console. Well, I don't have to share a TV with a cable box, so anytime I'm playing a Wii, it's just playing Wii. I guess that's kind of cool that you can move around with it, so if you have to really go to the bathroom, you don't have to be super hardcore gamer and bring a bottle for you to piss in. You could just get up and bring the controller with you. That's I guess a plus, but other than that, what do they have? They have the fact that it can be used as a universal remote. You know, all these TV watching things that I don't really care about. I'm curious what you guys are excited for out of E3. Maybe it wasn't anything that Nintendo did. I personally think that they did a better job after E3 with a lot of announcements of how Bandai is going to join up with Smash Bros. Bandai! You gotta be kidding me. Gundam could potentially be there. Oh, I'm so thrilled. Oh, good, and it looks like with more grass allies on our side, even though they were not very effective against Ekans, we're able to coax this warlord into our team. Yes, we are very close to victory. One more Vine Whip. Ah, I thought that would do it. That's right. One more step for victory, lads. I guess I should talk about him, Takayoshi, whenever he speaks with a pirate accent.
Arr, mateys. One more turn of Vine Whip, and we'll clinch victory.
Because he's got a giant anchor on his neck. And he looks like he could definitely be someone on the high seas. Ekans and Cha-Cha have joined our army. It's a funny name, but an awesome Pokemon to have. Because Ekans evolves into Chabaka! And I'm sure that if we ever come across Motonari again, he would not like to fight our poison types. I wonder when in the game we're going to start seeing those warlords. If it's going to happen, or if we've got to defeat the game and then come back to it, I don't know. I don't know. I would like to get a 100% run. I probably will. But I'm going to have to get your input, guys. What do you think of these training episodes? I mean, do you want them to continue on? If we do them, I'll most likely have an interesting topic to talk about every time. Something that might not necessarily be having to do with the game, but it's just kind of a improv talk of the day. And yeah, why not? Let's boost our defense just in case Whoopar wants to waste us with water gun a bit. I doubt that one bug bite will do. But that's getting stronger. I don't remember it doing such damage before. Ah, cheap Gulpin. Gulpin! Yeah, so let me know, guys. Is this something that should continue on, or should I just cut this out and go straight to the Warlord? I feel as though it should be included. This way you guys know what it takes in order to defeat the game. How much training is really necessary to show that every other episode is pretty much a Warlord battle. It's very balanced and still intriguing if you play it through. So I'm Dio Gen Z, hope you enjoyed a bit of the Japanese history lesson, and I'll catch you guys next episode.